Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Janet Foster Show. I'm your host, Janet. For some of our new listeners, I keep meeting you on the web and on social media, and thank you. And we're just going to jump right on into things today. Today is the day after the Iowa caucuses. Things have officially started to kick off for the race for the next president of the United States. I know a lot of you have been commenting, for the past few months, wow, all of these debates, the debates for the debates. Well, it's on now. The race is on. And in particularly, we are going to focus on the Republican caucus because there are so many people running. And pretty much last night on the Democratic side, things were pretty much decided between two candidates. If you haven't had a chance to catch up, if you've been really busy, Martin O'Malley is no longer in the race. So it is basically a two-person race on the Democratic side as the march towards getting delegates are concerned. But one of the more interesting races is the Republican side in terms of how things went down last night. And just to give you a recap, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, he won last night. And a lot of you have been tweeting me and asking me what's the significance for it. Obviously, the significance of last night for both parties was delegates are starting to be committed towards candidates. And I know we've got a lot of new first-time voters and some first-time voters who have decided to jump in on the fray here in terms of democracy, which is great. But in terms of what happened last night and why it's so significant, and because it was the first of many contests, and last night was a caucus, which is different from primaries, and we'll kind of get into that since we're officially in the election season now that it's kicked off. We'll explain to you the differences, and a lot of it has to do with based on the states, and particularly Iowa has a caucus, and so. Last night, Senator Cruz won, and he earned 8 delegates, and he got 27.6% of the vote. And Donald Trump, he came in second with 24.3% of the vote, and he earned 7 delegates. And Senator Rubio of Florida, he earned 23.1% of the vote, and he also earned 7 delegates last night. And then Dr. Ben Carson, he got 9.3% of the vote, and he earned 3 delegates. And then of the other candidates that at least earned 1 delegate, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush earned 1 delegate. And former CEO, here in California, we're very familiar with Carly Fiorina. She earned 1 delegate. And then Governor John Kasich of Ohio, he earned 1 delegate. And, based on the turnout, we've just been hearing that it's been a record turnout and a great turnout. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on, since primarily a large majority of our audience here are millennials and Gen Xers, and we got those cool baby boomers. You guys let me know. If I'm forgetting about you. But I wanted to focus on young voices. And today's guest is one of those young voices, and I'm really excited to talk to him today. He is a wonderful, wonderful resource that I think just from meeting him virtually, I think he'll be a great source for us. And while we're on the air, please feel free to get social with me right now on Facebook at Janet Foster. And that's on Facebook, and then on Instagram and Twitter, you can get social with me at Janet D. Foster on Instagram and Twitter, and that's D for Denise for all you new people. And right now, we're going to talk to my guest, who is Dennis Cook, who is the chairman of the Young Republican National Federation. Dennis, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Hi, Dennis.
How you doing tonight, Janet?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing? I know you're in the Midwest there.
It's beautiful here in the Midwest, rainy and cold.
Okay, well, it's actually cold here in Los Angeles. It's about 45 degrees.
Well, I guess we're kind of 39 degrees here, so I guess we're sharing the same weather in some respects.
Yes, we are. But I'm sure the way we're reacting to it, we think it's a blizzard here. So
I don't have a coat on, so put it that way.
Yeah, we're bundled up. No flip-flops for us today. Thank you for joining me, first of all. And, you guys had a very exciting night last night. And to our listeners, we're going to talk a little bit about, Iowa a little bit. And then we're going to talk about Dennis's organization as well. But just off the bat, I want to ask you, Dennis, your thoughts about last night. Were there any big surprises with last night in terms of the results?
I don't think, in my opinion, there's too many surprises out there. I think for the first time, you see some polling data that was out there. I think if you go back to the summer and you look at some of the early preliminary polling data, you had Trump that was always sitting around 26%. And as we got closer to Iowa in the caucus, those numbers had, Trump around 33%. I personally never believed that Trump was sitting at 30 percentile, given the fact that he hadn't really run a campaign in Iowa for, several reasons. When, early state, maybe, you look at Iowa and people are like, well, how many Republican candidates have really won Iowa and then gone on to become president? Especially in recent history, you had Michelle Bachmann and you had Mike Huckabee. They won Iowa, but they did not go on to become president, nor did they go on to not the party's nominee. Senator Cruz he ran a full-fledged campaign in all 99 counties. I wasn't surprised by his victory last night. I think the bigger surprise out of last night was Marco Rubio closing the gap and finishing a very strong third. I really thought that third place was kind of up for grabs, and I think it really leads us. Into next week's, New Hampshire primary. That it could be interesting. It's going to be. You're going to start seeing some significant changes, I think, after next week and the makeup of the race.
You bring up a great point about Senator Marco Rubio. Even a lot of people, in terms of the pundits out there, they didn't count him out, but he was definitely one that no one expected to kind of come in third. And actually, when you look at it numerically, he almost shares second in terms of you look at just how close his percentage is to Donald Trump. Now, one of the things that it seems to be interesting based on what happened in Iowa last night, the top three candidates, in terms of, I think, their support base, there seems to be three different types of, I don't want to say personalities, but these gentlemen represent, I think, three emerging constituencies, so to speak, just for a better word, to describe individuals supporting their base. I mean, it was clearly noted that the evangelical vote was a major factor with Senator Cruz, and then with Donald Trump, he has a certain appeal age-wise, to certain, age demographics. And then Marco Rubio, who he sort of represents more of definitely kind of the change that you see with the young Republicans that are coming in, at least in terms of some of the young Republicans I've had the opportunity to interview and talk with. He represents a kind of a changing wave, but they each have three distinct bases that carried them through last night. What are your thoughts on kind of the different, I think the different personalities? I know I keep going personalities, constituents, but it's definitely different type of voters that showed up last night.
No, you're correct, though. It is three different types of individuals who are, mindset. But at the end, I truly believe, and I'm not just saying this for a talking point, that at the end of the day, the party will come together for its nominee and will work hard to be successful in November 2016. But let's take it, when you look at what happened in Iowa, these personalities are going to change, or the makeup is going to look much different, I believe, next week in New Hampshire. Trump it will still be there, and I think the story will really be who comes in second or third. I think that's where the conversation is going to change. Is it the Rubio? Is it the Kasich? Is it the Bush? Where does the establishment, each portion of the party, so to speak, what everybody wants to call establishment,
right,
come together? Do they coalesce behind one person in New Hampshire, or they do that after New Hampshire? I think that's where the discussion changes. With Cruz, you've got a solid follower, just like Mike Huckabee had back when he ran.
Right.
I think what you see with Cruz, you'll see, with Huckabee. And so there'll be some staying power with Cruz, in my opinion. And Cruz has a significant war chest. So he's going to be a force to reckon with for some time in this race. And then, with Trump, with that, you have people all across the spectrum. People who have been involved that are just looking at the process and saying, I want a strong leader. I want somebody who's going to stand up there and, I hate to use this line, make America great again. But who doesn't want a great America is what I say to everybody. Every one of those candidates up there, they love America. They want a great America. There's no doubt about that. But
right.
they all have a different path of, achieving their victory, so to speak. But, with Trump spectrum, you have a lot of new people who, see the reality star, I believe, and like, wow, this guy's running. You see him on TV,
right.
And then you have the other guys who, may not be young Republicans that I've come across this country, are like, they're just done with business as usual. They're just, I hate disgruntled. And, we haven't given them a reason to, losing the White House two back-to-back times, I think, takes a toll on people.
Right. You make great points, and I like how you kind of categorize Trump supporters, the spectrum. That was actually that was definitely something that you can tell. Now, in terms of, we know the biggest surprise that you had. Is there someone who you thought would do a little bit better than what they did, than what the results kind of showed? I mean, you talked about kind of the polling data, but then, when you factor in the people factor, the actual folks that actually come out, was there someone that you kind of thought, the way things landed last night, and you thought, wow, I thought he or she would have done better than that?
Well, I think we could talk about two people specifically. I thought Rand Paul did better than I expected him to. 9%, 9.3. That's. I don't believe he's going to be there much longer. But he did well. Surprisingly much better than. I expected him to be around the 1-2% like the rest of the pack, and the rest vying for the bulk of those percentage points. And then Jeb Bush, I mean, campaigned in Iowa, spent a lot of money in Iowa.
Yes.
Well, what did you say it was? 1.2% or whatever? Maybe I don't.
He got 2.8.
But okay.
He got 2.8, and he got one delegate.
So he spent a lot of money in Iowa. I saw some stats being thrown around. I don't want to quote them, but it's a lot of money spent by Jeb in Iowa. I thought it would have gone, a little bit better. But I think, you have to look at that then if you're a strategist or involved, from that point of view, what wasn't sinking in? Was
right.
it just, again, it's the established, is it the old guard, or people like to say, are they just done? Are they just done with it? But again, Iowa is Iowa, and 34% or 36% of those who have won Iowa have gone on in the Republican Party just with the nomination. So just because you win Iowa doesn't mean you're going to win the nomination.
Right. And, the Republican that I had, I really thought would have done better since he's considered from the area. I thought Governor Kasich, with him, the Midwest, I thought he would have done a little bit better than he, and I agree with you about Bush.
Well, Governor Kasich didn't mount much of a campaign in Iowa.
Okay.
He's put significant resources in the Northeast and New Hampshire. He's one of the guys you need to look at next week. And if Kasich finishes in the top 3, he'll be around. But if he doesn't, he'll be out. So his strategy was that what happens in Iowa happens in Iowa. We go to the Northeast, and that's New Hampshire or bust.
Got it. Yeah, I was pretty surprised about that, just because, and I do know that Iowa sometimes is its own animal, in the sense of sometimes if you're regionally from that area, you may or may not do well or not. It's just all, it's kind of all on how you present yourself. But he was one that I really thought would do, just catch on a little bit more than what he did. And, your point about the establishment, I didn't want to bring it up first. and that's sort of, the old guard. And when you talk about Bush, and, the word establishment has sort of been kind of attributed to Marco Rubio, in the sense of describing kind of the new change, the new wave, or just the new, I think, a new focus, because you've got a much more energized electorate, and an electorate that's tired of the old way and coming at things in a new way. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, with the establishment portion of it, I think establishment has been tried to be pushed as a bad thing.
Right.
I guess people are going to define establishment how they, it's relative to them. It's when you're involved and you've been around, now you're part of the establishment. I think we need people who have experience and have, been executives and run offices in regards to governor, or let it be mayor, all the, because it's not just national politics. It goes down to all levels of government.
Right.
When you run to the local level and you have an R next to your name, are you the establishment candidate? It's like, what does that mean? People are going to have a different definition of that, but ultimately, I look at it as, when you call somebody establishment, I look at them, they have experience, they have a record. I think having a record's okay, because I'd rather know what I'm voting for and be able to make an educated decision at the end of the day based on their record. Not just somebody out there campaigning, signing off, wonderful taglines that, might get you to put on their page, be more about them and go vote for them because they said something, cute. So that's how I kind of look at it.
Right.
I look at it, that it's just what you define establishment. Now, Marco Rubio, yes, he's getting, he's the establishment candidate, or there's people are saying that after last night. Yeah, that's going to change a couple more times here over the over the next few as we get through this primary season.
Right.
Who's the establishment? Who's gonna get the establishment vote? So
right. Yeah. And with that, and I think when we hear establishment a lot of times, particularly on the national level, and you did an excellent explanation and gave us an excellent explanation of what establishment really means at all levels. I know from reporters, when we hear that, we're kind of tuning into where's the big money coming from, and where's the money going to start to flow to, and in terms of financial support, because it's right now with these delegates, it's a combination of getting that magic number to get the nomination, and at the same time showing viability that for donors that you're going to be around, that they'll write you a check, because everybody likes to write a check for a winner.
Yep.
I mean, that keeping it 100, that's exactly what people want. And so when you hear that, and and I do think, though, with Iowa, I think with Iowa, because they tend to be avant-garde a lot of times about things, and just the way of their thinking and support. And there is a potential where maybe with the shift with who wins Iowa, who wins the Republican caucus in Iowa, might change this year, just because it's so, the field is so different. And I think from a lot of the reports, particularly in the AP Wire, we were seeing a lot of turnout that normally didn't happen before. So there's definitely something good happening. And then everybody's talking, I know pundits are, and a lot of reporters are talking about Senator Cruz and his ground game, at how he hit all 99 counties, and that, and some people are attributing that was significant for him. In your mind, Dennis, based on the individuals who didn't get any delegates, what are your thoughts? Who do you think will, when I call their name and I think who might be around to Super Tuesday? And we're going to be, because I mean, it's already February, and we know Super Tuesday is the big one next month. So that's 30 days.
March 1st and March 15th are big primary days.
Yes, so it's coming up. We already know former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, he's out. He's done. He's done. But when we hear, let's say, Governor Christie, what are your thoughts? Super Tuesday?
I think New Hampshire will tell a lot for him next week. I think he's one of those individuals that need to place in the top three or a strong fourth, depending on how the math works out. Governor Christie needs a good New Hampshire.
Definitely, and with him being from the Northeast and kind of in that region, he does. And what about former Senator Rick Santorum?
I think that's one of those campaigns that, I mean, it's not 4 years ago, and you just haven't caught fire, and you haven't you haven't even placed high enough to get on the main stage of the debate. And I think that's one campaign that will be that won't be there.
Oh, okay. And now, although she did get one delegate, Carly Fiorina.
Yeah, I mean that one. Scott. As we all remember, she had a really good debate, and she had a bump in the polls after that, and it just kind of slipped away. She, in my opinion, she was very strong in the debate stage. I think she had a lot of good points. I think what happens, though, when you have, that many people on the stage, people are fighting for those, their 7 minutes. And that's basically what their average was,
right,
or however it played out, their time on stage to speak. And sometimes you just, depending on your question and how you get to respond, might have hurt her. Now, there is a candidate that does have an organization in the Northeast and South Carolina and some of the southern states. So I do think you're going to see her around at least through March 1st.
Okay.
But this for the simple reason that, she does have an organization, and, she does have her supporters out there. And I don't believe she's mounted much of a effort in Iowa also. A lot of candidates, again, I just want to go back to that, decided not to put a lot of resources into Iowa. They decided to put field ops in, like, New Hampshire and South Carolina. A lot of these campaigns, like Governor Christie, Governor Kasich, even Jeb and Carly, that they actually have large field operations in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So then this will be interesting because I really thought I was surprised Carly Fiorina got one delegate, and I just saw this to be a struggle for her because it didn't seem like she got that foothold that she needed to get the airtime that you were talking about, because
Right.
it
Right.
just didn't see it. I didn't see her resonating, but you are right. She did hold her own several times in several debates, and in some of our discussions, I even thought at some point that she was more composed than some others that all of a sudden surged forward. One question I want to ask you about is Dr. Carson. Now, his popularity, it was sky high before the end of last year, and now he's still in the mix, but it seems to be leveling off a little bit. What do you think that he needs to do to get back to where he was, or is it even possible with him?
I don't think it's possible to get back where he was. I think voters are looking at their options, and they're looking at and saying at this point, like, who do they really believe has the best shot to win the nomination and defeat the Democrats in November. And I think that some of his performances on the debate stage, not going to take away from Dr. Carson. He's a very intelligent man. He's a very good doctor. And just sometimes he didn't have full command of the issues. And I think people thought through that. And I think that ultimately, the presidency isn't a, learn as you go position. So,
right.
It's a tough situation. But, again, these people, they took out a task. They put their name on the ballot. They've gone out there and they've worked hard over the last, 18 months, year. And, there's now all their work is coming to a serious crossroad. You need to make a decision. Am I viable? Can I do this? Is it worth it?
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah, and like I said, everybody likes to write a check for a winner. That's for sure. Well, this was a good breakdown of last night, and it was definitely exciting to watch for once. Because I have to tell you, even for my job, I have to watch all the debates of everything, and after a while, I was kind of burnt out. So it was great to kind of watch the numbers come in and see the change coming on. I want to switch things up a little bit and actually talk about you and your organization. And if you could you tell us and tell the audience a little bit about your organization, kind of what your scope is, and even how you're involved in the primary process right now.
Okay. Yeah, as we were talking about, I'm chairman of the National Young Republican Federation, the oldest auxiliary organization in the country and in the Republican Party. I was elected as chairman on August 1st in Chicago at our convention. We have 42 member states. We're growing. We've actually added some states, some of our membership getting elected in August. So we are seeing growth. We are seeing younger people across the country and uncharted states charter and organize and get involved. we are, the group is between the ages of 18 to 40 years old.
Okay.
A lot of young professionals, people who are been involved in politics or looking to get involved and get to know people who have the same like-minded thoughts. You have people who are looking to run for office or currently are office holders across the country.
Okay.
I would say that when I ran, one of my strongest talking points was to build a stronger foundation for the Republican Party going forward. And what I mean by that is I truly believe in getting young Republicans or elected to a local level of government, whether it be your school board, municipal government, local mayor, library board. I believe that, that the people don't take that serious enough as they do. They think it's just president, and at the end of the day, your local boards, they control most of your tax dollars. Those are the most important entities that people need to be paying attention to. And so I've taken a focus with my organization and my team about, educating and promoting those who seek to run for lower level office, and those running. We also help for those people running for Congress and state level offices. And what I mean by that is, we'll go out, we'll organize campaign walks, we'll help where we can. We do virtual phone banks. We'll do phone banks on site.
Okay.
Senator Cassidy and we did a special walk for him in New Orleans back in last November for the special election. We do a lot of that. We do a lot of education. We do a lot of training. We have 4 meetings a year, rotate across the country, where we have our meetings. Our next big one is YRLC in Washington, D.C., April 28th through May 1st. It should be a great turnout. And if people are, wanting to come, they can. They can find us, and we're more than willing to get them involved. We are open. We are not, at the end of the day, controlled by, people are like, are you controlled by rents and the RNC? No, we have our own governing body. We have our own rules. We have our own chartering process at the end of the day. But we do communicate with the RNC. With the McCain-Feingold that was passed in early 2000s. We got to limit what we can do. We can't coordinate, so to speak.
Right.
We can't do that nowadays. So that's why we're separate. We've been always separate, but we're separate.
Now, in what you described, I like how you broke down for us your organization and kind of what you do. And you said that you do trainings. Are these trainings more for how to run a GOTV, or is it preparation trainings to run for public office, or is it a combination of both?
Well, every chairman, previous chairman, they have their own way, their own, agenda, and any right agenda. It's a positive thing. It's like what they view is what they, you have 2 years. You're a lame duck after you get elected, so you got to get moving if you want to get things done. So, how I view when I talk about training is media training. You put, say if you're a member in your local organization, and Dana Foster calls you and says, "Hey, I want to do an interview." If you've never done an interview before, and especially if it's a 45-minute interview, people need to be trained how to go through, and be relaxed and just, it's just basic.
Right.
Things that they could use not only in political campaign life, but in your corporate life and so forth, and going forward. I mean, it's some of the training. Yes, we do GOTV stuff. That changes year to year of technology. We do put on campaign seminars. We more or less really partner with other outside organizations to have them come in and do the training. But it just depends on what your focus is, and my focus is on, media training in our social media, and just making sure that we're hitting home on all those points, and everybody's working hard, as our co-chair likes to call it, your digital footprint.
Yes. Well, you're doing a great job. If I'm keeping up with you and I'm watching what you're doing a great job.
Great. I appreciate that. We have a good team. They work very hard.
Yes, you do a great job at that. What I want to ask you, you mentioned that you communicate with the RNC, but you have your own charter and you're completely separate. I'm also assuming too, you are. Does your group have your own set of delegates to the national convention, or are you tied through the states and the states that your membership resides in, and they go through the delegate process there?
So are you talking in regards to this presidential? Is that
yes.
your question?
Mm-hmm. To the national convention. How do you interact with that?
Well, so a lot of our members, let's go one step further, they're involved already in a lot of campaigns. A lot of people involved with the Young Republicans also are, let it be campaign staffers, chief of staff, they could be general consultants, some type of vendor, and again, in their respective states. And just like where I'm at in Illinois, I had an opportunity to be a delegate to presidential campaigns, because presidential campaigns come into your state and they look for, we're looking for supporters within those congressional districts. And so basically that's how our members, our members are delegates probably on every campaign, every presidential campaign. And so they have an opportunity, if their delegate ends up making it to Cleveland, or their candidate makes it to Cleveland, they very well could be on the floor come this summer. Okay,
yeah, that's exactly what I was interested in, and I know that was actually a question that comes up a lot from some of our listeners. A lot of times when they ask me, if you ever interview someone, ask how young people are, and particularly young people, like I had mentioned, we have a lot of interest of how young people can get incorporated into the process. That sounds great for delegates. Now, you mentioned that your organization's conference is this spring. It's in April. What usually happens at your conference?
Well, we're in the process of finalizing the details. We'll plan on having that done actually this week. But this is held every 2 years. This conference here is called the Young Republican Leadership Conference, and it's held in D.C. every 2 years. And there is where we'll have, again, a lot of speakers, U.S. senators, congressmen. We do an embassy event. 2 years ago, I believe we did the Taiwanese government. We went to their compound just outside of D.C. And 2 years before that, we had an event at the Georgian embassy. And, a representative from the country is there, and we, get to meet them and, talk about ways that, we can work together. And we've actually sent people from the Young Republicans to Taiwan, and we had the opportunity to send people to Georgia also. Given the political climate at that time, it wasn't a good idea to send people. But
that was nice.
But it's a really cool event. They're just going to get a chance to see people they see on TV, get to meet them, get involved, and it's easy, and it's just got that feeling like, that they're part of something. And a lot of us, we're going to come together and, put our plan together for the final few months of the presidential cycle. We have a lot of things we want to get done between now and November, and that's where we'll be hammering out some of our business. Okay,
and you're having it at kind of past a lot of the major primaries, so potentially this spring your group may be talking to the top candidates that are left. I'm also assuming too that your convention would be the place where some of those individuals would come through, especially since if you've got members who potentially can be delegates in their own states coming through, and for the purposes for our first-time voters who are listeners, a lot of times when one candidate drops out, they still have they still have some leverage in terms of their delegates, in terms of endorsement. So potentially this year for you guys, this could be something pretty interesting.
I think it depends on how you look at it. You know, a lot of people have different theories on how this is going to play out. But I think once you get past the March 1st and March 15th primary date, the primaries become very spread and across as grouped together as they are early on. Mm-hmm. And you are right. You're going to see significant changes in regards to how many people are left in the field, and you're going to see some shifting and allocating of resources and combining resources on other tickets or other teams. And then, but I think you potentially, it could be, the delegate count is something that people are going to watch very closely here over the next coming weeks, because it will foretell how the convention is going to go. If you potentially could have your first floor battle in a long time.
Right. That's what I was alluding to. I know most of us, most Gen Xers and definitely millennials, have only read that in a civics book. I don't think any, and even as a reporter, I haven't been that close. I'm usually on the line or on the wires at various conventions when some of that negotiation goes down. But that would be interesting to see, just to see the negotiation process for sure.
It could happen. I would say this is your best chance. If it's going to happen, it can happen now. But as I tell everybody else, you got to watch it state by state, primary by primary. And I believe, Florida and Ohio, I think, are winner take all.
Yes.
And that will be interesting. I mean, what if Kasich wins Ohio by itself? What if Rubio wins Florida?
Right.
That's a significant chunk of delegates. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with the map, and see how this plays out. But
Definitely.
Nobody knows yet.
Definitely. And for our audience, what's that magic number that Republicans have to have?
In regards to the threshold?
To get the nomination.
I want to say 1,500. Don't quote me on that one. That's a number I'm not too solid on.
Because I know that
1555, I think.
Okay.
That's what I want to throw out there. Yeah, well,
it's a long haul. It's a long haul, and you know what? And definitely one person's not going to get all of that. So there definitely can be some negotiations going on.
Don't quote me on the number. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it's a big number, though.
Yeah, that's and I'm sure probably too this year. All of that will change. I'm sure. If whatever the number is, it will change, because you've got such an active electorate now that you didn't have. A lot of that was kind of based on, I'd say, business as usual. Definitely not business as usual.
Well, that hard line doesn't move. The delegate hard line, the winner take to get the nomination. That line, there is a defined yes. Once you cross that number, you got the nomination. So that there is a set number. But in regards to how this is going to play out, yeah, I mean, you can have 3 or 4 candidates have a good chunk of delegates going into the convention.
Exactly. And that's exactly what let's say you're 3, I'm thinking maybe 4. I'd say the 4th one would have it where it's close to the 3rd person.
And the fourth might be sticking around that, hoping for the convention to get something.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting. And that's the kind of thing that I would think I would find a very interesting to just as a reporter to cover and to talk to, I think, convention goers about that. And I think it would be exciting too, an exciting thing to cover. Now, I want to ask you specifically about your group. What what are some of the things that young conservatives are thinking about? Because we see the shift, and definitely, just from my perspective as a journalist, I see a lot of change. Talking to young young Republicans, and what I find is it's becoming. I think it's a lot more focused, and a lot, and the idea, and I think the ideas are they're good ones. They're good ones too. So what?
Well, I think they've had 8 years of watching what hasn't worked, and I think some of these. I mean, look, the numbers. You said it earlier. The numbers in Iowa, there's a higher turnout. I believe once you start digging into that, you're going to notice that it was a very large increase, or a large increase between 18 and 40, and these individuals might have voted for Obama. I know there are people out there who voted for Obama and have come on over, but they said, I bought into a marketing plan. I bought into, yes, we can, and the change. But the change hasn't happened, and now you have people who paid attention to the change that hasn't happened and are noticing what's happening with the economy and noticing what's happening to, on the world stage, and they're asking the questions now. Well, what's going on? So I mean, jobs. I mean, the job market is, you have 2% growth, right? You don't have a booming economy. You have, a very level growth. It's not. People are afraid of a recession coming back. They are cyclical, but you have people in our generation who are worried about their jobs. I mean, they're starting families. I mean, they're looking at what's being taken out of their paycheck week to week. I mean, they notice it. And aside from what the federal government's doing, depending on what state you live in, you might have very high state taxes. So I mean, people they're watching this, and it's on the world, what's happening on the world stage. There's a lot of scary things happening. So people are, like, well, what are we going to do to protect ourselves from that? And what's the plan? And does anybody have a plan? And that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, and are you finding that if a lot of your members or a lot of young conservatives that you're talking to, they haven't been happy with the last 8 years? Were they doing well before President Obama was?
I would say they're growing. They're trying to find their way. They're looking. A lot of these guys are entrepreneurs. They're trying to build a business. They're trying to start, or trying to, maybe they're starting a new profession, and education for these guys costs them a fortune, and their student loans are through the roof. I mean, I still have student loans. I mean, it's crazy, but how much education costs. But and then when you get into the workforce, when you do the math, how much am I making as opposed to what I need to pay down my bills? But I need that master's degree, or I need that law degree, but I don't want to accumulate much more debt. People are paying attention to that. It's like, before you know it, you have $175,000 in student loan debt. Your student loan debt payment is larger than your mortgage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's changing the whole dynamic. People are wondering, like, hey,
what's going on?
Do I just rent? Am I ever going to be a homeowner? I mean, look at one of the numbers that are changing with our demographic is people aren't buying as many cars. People aren't driver's license. 16-year-olds aren't getting driver's license at a higher rate than they have in the past.
Yeah.
People are using Uber, using other forms of transportation. So the conversation's changing.
Definitely.
No,
definitely. And you make a great point about in terms of millennials and entrepreneurship, and and I'm assuming that in terms of conservatives are feeling, young conservatives are feeling that there just hasn't been enough investment or enough encouragement from a financial perspective to encourage entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's hard for them to get. I mean, without things are difficult to get that line of credit. You just can't wake up tomorrow and say, "Hey, I want to start a pizza chain."
Right.
That oven costs a lot of money, right? That lease is going to cost a lot. I mean, these things cost a lot to get going, and again, I believe we have an educated base. We have an educated, group of people, and they look at it and they're raising questions that need to be raised. And, raising taxes and handing out freebies isn't going to fix the problem. We need to promote entrepreneurs, and that's what I hear. We need to promote that mindset. Let's find the next great thing and build it and go from there.
Got it. Well, if people want to find out more about your group and where they can reach out to you, where on social media can they find you?
You can find us at Twitter at YRNF. They can find us on Facebook or online at YRNF.com. And they can find us on Facebook, Young Republican National Federation.
Oh, excellent.
But Twitter, we're trying to grow our Twitter, so at YRNF would be great.
Okay. And definitely, I want you to know that you have an open mic here anytime, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you throughout the year. And I'm going to see if we can make it out to your convention and talk to you and talk to some of your people there too. But Dennis, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I know it's late back there, and I appreciate the time that you've taken.
I appreciate it, Janet, and thanks for the opportunity, and have a great night.
You have a great one, too. And listeners, I just want to, again, thank you for listening. And thank you to the best sound engineer, producer, and person who wears all hats, Jeremy Hansen, for all your help. And listeners, we'll be right back here next week, but have a great week. And you will be at the same place, and we'll talk again.